Hey guys, welcome back. It's Brad here, and today I'm going to be going over the supply list for my beginning watercolor class. And so these materials, I tried to do a pretty good job of balancing price versus the quality. As you can imagine, generally the better quality products are a little bit more expensive, and for beginners, sometimes we can't always afford the most high quality ones, especially if we just are trying to see, like, is watercolor right for us? So it's always difficult to kind of strike that balance of, kind of where do you start off with the beginner. But what I've experienced is that if you give students good materials from the beginning and they find success, it's more likely that you're going to stick with the subject, whatever it is. In this case particular, it's watercolor. And so I've just seen too many students try to do take this beginning watercolor class with really inferior products, and it just they don't find success. It's harder to mix. The colors don't work well together, and it's hard. And then they don't like watercolor painting. They never do it again. But if you use better quality, at least decent quality products, you will more likely stick with it. In fact, that happened with me. I was very fortunate. Maybe that's why I'm teaching this class now. It's because back in the 90s, some point, I can't remember the year, but I was a younger kid, and I took a class. I think it was at a community college. I'm not really sure what the program was through, but it was a beginning watercolor class, and it was just like a few weeks summer program, and they gave us these Grumbacher watercolor brushes. And I don't know how much these cost back then or whatever, but these are really good quality. And I've bought watercolor brushes since, and they're not as good quality as these. And so whatever I got in that class, these Grumbacher, golden edge watercolor brushes, they've been great. And I've used them for, 25 years, I guess now. And they're still holding up. I've got other ones since, but these are great ones. And so what I'm trying to do is hopefully give you guys some materials too that will be able to use for a long time. That if you go in and try to paint with like those universal brushes that say they're good for watercolor, acrylic, and oil, I mean that's not true. They're probably just good for acrylic. Watercolor brushes are, if a brush is good for watercolor and oil, like, I don't even understand that, because those two brushes are different. Watercolor, you want to suck up the paint. Oil, you don't want to suck up the paint. You want it just to stay on the surface, and then it goes on the surface of the brush and you put it right on the canvas. So there's just two different types of brushes. So if it says it's good for both of them, I'm really skeptical of that. So, and I've seen other students try to use like really bad brushes in the past, and it's hard to do really nice washes and get good results. So it's really important to use good products, and that's what I tried to do here. So without any more talking, I'm going to just get right into it. So the brushes I picked out for this class, I actually just went to dickblick.com and I looked on their website. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't get paid, although I should. So Dick Blick, send me something. Just lots of money and supplies and stuff. Okay. No, seriously, do it. Okay. But I chose these Winsor Newton brushes. I just thought they would, and I've never personally used these. I have other brushes that I use. Typically what I use Daniel Smith watercolor brushes now. But there's lots of good brands, and I'm not sponsored by Daniel Smith watercolor brushes either. So if Daniel Smith, send me stuff, okay? Anyway, but so the brushes I picked out for this class, there's like a 13 millimeter half-inch flat, and there's I think this is a quarter inch or 6 millimeter kind of flat. I think they call these one strokes. I don't know. But these look like pretty decent, and they say they're for watercolor. So when I was buying them, or when I was picking them out, I was like, these are specifically for watercolor. That's going to be great. All right, and then there's a couple rounds that we got. There's a 6 and a 2, and I'm hoping that these are going to be really good. I haven't used them yet, but stay tuned for another video, and I will be using them, demoing them, and giving you some of my thoughts on those brushes too. But this is what we got, and I want to use the same kind of materials that everyone else is using for this class, because it's going to be able to, I'll be able to answer your questions specifically. If we're using different materials in the class, I can answer general questions, but if you're having a specific, really specific issue, I might not be able to speak to that in terms of like color or brush. You're like, why is it not doing this, or why is it doing this? And if we're using the same materials, I could tell you why, or probably. But if we're using different materials, I can just only give you like a general answer. Okay, so these are the 4 brushes, and I really think we can do a lot of damage with these. This is a good mix. You don't need a ton of brushes. I really just think maybe 1 or 2, 3 or 4 like better quality brushes is way better to get than like 20 or 10 just bad brushes. In fact, I think a lot of artists, you could just get by with maybe 1 or 2 brushes, and if you really wanted to do that, I've done demos too where I've just used like a 2, like a really good 2, and then you can just use like a sumi brush, which we'll talk about here maybe in a second. You can get by with that if you have a couple of just kind of go-to brushes that work really well for you. If you're doing smaller paintings, like which we're going to be doing in this class, you can probably get by with just maybe 1 or 2 brushes. But anyway, these should be good for you. These I'm excited to use them. And the kit also comes with a waterproof, like kind of micron pen. One of these. These are awesome. It's an 01. I don't know, where's the camera? There it is. It's an 01. That comes with our kit. But you can get different sizes. And these are great, especially because you can do like illustrations and do water. In fact, well, I wasn't even going to show this, but you can see there's like some of these demos. This is a micron pen drawing where I just dropped in some watercolor on top of it. So you can do cool stuff like that. Now, as far as the paints, what we're going to be using in this class, I haven't used these specifically. They look like a pretty good brand. What I read about them and everything, it looks like this is they're a pretty serious watercolor. They're not just like those really cheap. I'm not going to name the other brands that I don't like, but these ones should be good. These Van Goghs or Van Goghs or whatever you want to call them. I'm excited about them. All right, and so we'll demo them. We'll see how they act. But what I like about this set and why I chose this set over some of the others, one, price point. I thought they were a reasonable introductory kind of price for students. But they had 2 yellows, we have 2 reds, 2 blues, which is really great. So you can have like kind of warms and cool blues for mixing different colors. So we'll get into that later about color mixing, but it looks like it has like a nice range of colors. You know, we got some other ones in there as well. But I'm excited. I think this will be a good set for us. And the palette that we got, I chose for this kit, it's, I don't know what size this is, but it's a palette. It's a plastic palette. And see, it's a fairly decent size. The one thing that you don't want to have is like a really tiny palette where like people are trying to mix like their colors and there's no room to mix. I like having some room to mix. So this is like the cheapest, like decent sized palette. You can also just, kind of make your own palettes. If you get like one of those big giant Costco pumpkin pies or something like that, you can use one of those or whatever. I also like to use, personally, I like these ones that are covered, but these get a little bit more expensive. I think I use both sides. I don't even want to show you. It's a disaster in there. I need to start over. I need to clean this out a little bit. But anyway, I have a bunch of different palettes. But this one I think will be a good one for us as we're starting out. The next thing in the kit is our paper. And we got these watercolor blocks. I'll show you guys how to use these later. But this is your paper. All right. And I suggested getting two, and you guys should get two. One, because there's only 15 sheets of paper on each one of these, and two, these are on blocks, so you can't just flip through to the next one. You actually have to cut off the top sheet of paper before you get to the next one. So if you're not done with a project, you just kind of have to wait if you don't have to. But now you can work on one project. You can work two projects at the same time. All right, so that will help us just be efficient with our time. All right. So those are the supplies that actually come in the kit that you'll see from the school. There's a couple other things that I suggest getting. One, you probably want to pick up some masking tape. You probably maybe already have this at home. Just get some masking tape if you don't. All right, it'll be helpful for you. You'll need some sort of container for water. So I just suggest, a yogurt container. Just get like a nice, treat yourself to some nice Tillamook. I don't get sponsored by Tillamook either. Just get sponsored. Just use some sort of container. All right. I like plastic because you can drop it and it doesn't shatter. All right. So that's what in class I always say you got to use the plastic ones. So I like to have two. So get two containers. But if nothing else, you can just use whatever. Certainly don't go buy one. Don't buy one. All right. You'll want to have a pencil, just like a regular HB pencil ought to work. And a couple other things that you might want to get. I really recommend these. I think these are nice. And one of the reasons why I recommend it is because they're very inexpensive and cheap. But if you can go to the store now, you can get one of these like Sumi brushes. They're pretty inexpensive. You can go to like the International District and you get like a whole pack for like $10 or $10, like $1 or $2. And yeah, so they're pretty inexpensive. This brush doesn't cost $1, I don't think. And it may cost $1, and if it's $1 or $2, it's probably worth it. So pretty good. And you'll see, I'll do demos with those. They're great for washes. Sometimes people like these. You got to be kind of careful with like a scrubber brush. But sometimes the beginners really benefit by having a little scrub brush. They're a little short hair, kind of hard, firm bristle brush that you can use to kind of, almost like an eraser. I'll talk about these later, but sometimes people like these. But again, those are extras. You don't have to get one of those. You might want to have an eraser. So if you have one of these from a drawing class or something, or like a neat eraser, these will be great to use. Don't have to, but it'd be nice to have one of those. Sometimes people like, like the sponges and things like that. If you like a sponge, great. If you don't like them, I actually don't use them. I've used this a couple times. I have one, but I don't actually use sponges hardly at all. Other thing that you might want to get, if you have extra money. So again, this is all just like if you know your budget, if you've got money to spend on it, then it's great. Get some. This is like masking fluid. I recommend artists like the beginning or that are doing watercolor getting some of that masking fluid. It is helpful, and it allows you to do things that otherwise you can't. But you don't have to use it, and a lot of artists do not use it, and so you don't have to get it. Other things that you might have that in the laying around, you might have some like salt. You might be able to use some salt from time to time. I'll show you how to do that. Likewise with like rubbing alcohol. Sometimes don't go buy this. Like seriously, I know it's not that expensive, but you probably have this at home already, and so you can, if you have it, great. And I think that's really about it. I mean, there's some other things, like if you're going to the International District and you're going to buy like some really cheap, Sumi brushes, which is a great place to get them. You go up to Seattle and go to the International District and you can pick up like 10 of these for like $1 or $2. And that's great. But when you're also up there, you can get some of the like Sumi ink. And this is great. It's just black ink, but it can help you with your watercolor techniques and learning how to use these brushes. And you can just do value studies of black and white, grays, drawings and paintings with with this, and that will help your watercolor as well. So, so if you're there, pick it up. Don't buy it for this class. We're not going to do it in this class, but if you're there, you might use that for some practice. Anyway, I'm not going to go into any more of this because we're already getting kind of late. And so anyway, I just wanted to show you guys the supply list. These are things that you want to pick up for the class. And I think that's about it. You guys take care, and catch you next time. All right.